We sell a lot of records, and records cost a lot of money. But what good is spending a lot of money if your records don't sound good because of dust and static electricity? That's why I recommend to all our customers the new record vacuum by Ronco. It's so easy to use. Just insert any size record, 33 1/3, 45s, 78s. The new record vacuum automatically vacuums away all the microdust particles that distort sound and can damage your needle. It also eliminates static electricity buildup. The record vacuum by Ronco protects your records and gives you all the quality sound you paid for. It makes this sound like this. For the price of a couple of albums, protect your records and prevent damage to your needle. If you want the best possible sound from all your records, get the new record vacuum by Ronco. In fact, buy 2 or 3. They really do make great Christmas gifts. And they're only $14.88.
Available at Payless, MyMart, Newberry, and 7-Eleven, and Fred Meyer.
The Power Glove for your NES. Now you and the games are one. Everything else is child's play.
Everybody needs a Yugo sometime.
I bought my Yugo because now I can afford a brand new car.
I think it's fun to drive, and it beats my old car pool.
I like the rack and pinion steering and the front wheel drive.
We wanted a dependable second car.
And this Yugo's just what we need.
The 87 Yugo GV is still only $39.90. Call 1-800-USA-YUGO for the dealer nearest you.
Everybody needs a Yugo sometime.
Great American Furniture's Christmas sale starts the day after Thanksgiving, and we have a huge selection of furniture that will turn your house into a home. Recliners, 10 to 30% off. Dining room sets, 10 to 40% off. Lane cedar chests save up to 50%.
Charlie's Place. You can use an electric sign. Charlie, set up the Stag beer. Oh, business is off to nothing. No jukebox, no service. Charlie, let's make it lively here with some Stag. Shh, shh. Leaky radiators. Oh, they'll ruin business every time. Put down that menu, sir, and join me in a refreshing Stag beer. Oh, there's nothing like Stag brew to refresh you through and through. Charlie, you better get out here with some more Stag, or you'll...
Shh, quiet, please.
Oh, don't whisper, gal. Speak up. Where's the Stag?
Stag may be found under wildlife.
Oh, yay. Oh, that is a corker. Go ahead, sir. Drink up. And the next time you look for complete refreshment, look for Stag beer.
Mr. McGee was voiced by Jim Backus, also known as Mr. Howell on Gilligan's Island.
Time to get myself a Stag beer. I wish someone were here to enjoy it with me. Why, Bottomley, I didn't hear you come in. Take off your hat, and I'll get another Stag. Oh, by George, Stag always brings them best together.
Back in the couch, go grab Grandma. Get the dog spot, sit him right down. You're looking for something you ain't never seen before. You're looking for a home with a Loch Ness monster, Roddy Piper. You're looking, say, grab the children, grab the women, tell the policemen, turn in their baggage, because I'm coming to your living room, so bar the doors or I don't get in there. I'm Roddy Piper.
Exciting wrestling action, Sunday nights at 11:30.
Christmas gift values up to $15.
It's a wrestle at my house.
$4.96 at
Sunday
Kmart.
night.
The amazing cookie machine. Delicious decorative fun. Make beautiful rugs with the amazing speed tufting kit. Create exciting fancy foods with the potato chip machine. The bottle and jar cutter recycles throwaway bottles and jars into beautiful glassware. The rhinestone and stud setter stylizes jeans, shirts, anything. Homemade ice cream is easy with the automatic ice cream machine. Get these great Christmas gift values for just $4.96 only at Kmart.
G.I. Joe forces hit back while they move their secret recon satellite to safety. But blasting down from Devil's Mountain, Cobra's gonna hijack it. Here come the reinforcements. You control the action with G.I. Joe High Adventure Trucking. Now, Cobra's desperate. They'll ram. Squeeze to safety. Headquarters are secure now, so move her on back. G.I. Joe, High Adventure Trucking. By Tyco, of course.
What up, Cyberspace Cadet, Cyber Fam, and Fanbots galore? That's right. It's Sunday. You know what that means. It's time for ice cream, my favorite treat of the week. Hanging out with somebody that I don't know a lot about, or somebody that I do know a lot about, and just hanging out and getting to know them better, talking, having fun. That's what this is about, man. This is about, and you know, it's like I've got this thing where if my gut tells me somebody's going to be good, I usually go on that instinct. And this is the case. Today's guest is definitely a case. Met her a couple months back in let me turn this tool down just a little bit because I mean it's not it's loud enough, I think. Anyway, so yes, I met this lady in Drone Tech's server. It just hit me right when I heard her talk. I said, man, I got to talk to this person because I think she's going to be really interesting. And you know me, I follow my nose, and it's never wrong. Just saying. And on that note, here's my guest today is known as Errant Belle.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I didn't know if that was my intro, if there was more coming, so I wanted to.
No, you're grooving. You're fine. So, all right. So, what do you want me to call you? Errant Belle, or just Belle, or
Errant, whatever you prefer. I'm not particular.
Okay. Well, hey.
Actually, people use both. I'm really not particular, but thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Groovy.
Virtually.
And we'll say to some folks in chat, I recognize some faces already. It's always like this on Sundays, which will trickle in kind of thing. And Liesel, Liesel 7. Okay. I'm MC. What's up, man? FTW Nil, greetings. Johnny Bonsaco, the one and only, is in here. Madness, greetings. Mr. Scott J87, greetings. Let's see. How you win the liquor? I don't know who you're talking to, man. You're not me. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that. Feeling some kind of sort of way. Anyway. So Miss Errant Belle, we're going to go ahead in here and hop in the dog and the cat room where we can kind of get down and listen to the dulcet sounds of Philip Daniel in the background. The one and only, I'm really fortunate to have original music, because so many people, want to have, good music in the background. And
you're also fortunate you have a Wolfman Jack type voice. You got the gravelly radio voice.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I occasionally a character will pop out here and there, like shit-faced Alex Jones may occasionally. He's got a drinking problem. He's from an alternate universe, and he's really mad about it.
He's an excitable kind of guy.
He definitely is, man.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's a little creepy, actually.
Oh man, I it's like so I don't know. Do you remember a guy named Red Pill Shark? Did news?
Vaguely, Red Pill is. I might remember somebody else whose name started. Red Pill's been used so much that it kind of starts to.
Yeah. It's
hard to. I might be confusing with somebody else.
Yeah, but he changed it to Red Shark eventually. But I don't know that he's kind of. I've had interacted with him. That's why I was asking. I thought you might know about the guy. All right, so all right. What I have is I've got a group of questions here, and subject matter wise, we start at YouTube, and then we kind of go into who you are and your life, right? And then when we're done, we'll be a full circle. We'll be back at YouTube, And it's like is there anything in specific that you want to promote for you?
No, I am not here to promote myself. I'm just here to have hopefully a lovely conversation with an interesting person.
Bing, bing, bing. You're a winner, chicken dinner. I like it already. Let's see. Yeah, they're saying that's a little too. See, man, that's what Phyllis volume goes up and down sometimes. All right, there you go. Now we're good. All right, we're solid, sister. And on that note, all right, remember, people in the chat, if you have any questions for Miss Errant Belle or Miss Belle, just write them down, okay? Because, towards the end of the show, I've got my little section where I do the Ask Y'all Questions thing, all right? FTW Neil says Belle is his homie. And I know that's right, bro. All right, so all right, Miss Belle, how long have you been on YouTube, and what was the main reason you decided to, hop in streams and stuff with people?
I can't actually give you a date in terms of the first time I was on somebody's stream. I think I started just talking on people's streams because it's going to sound kind of weird, but I find a lot of women aren't comfortable speaking out. And I know that's changing, and I know that's not true for all women. But some of the streams get a little dude heavy. And so I sometimes insert myself. I do sometimes insert myself because I'm like, maybe one chick wouldn't be so bad. And the other, well, especially a lot of like the big shows too. There's you watch Steven Crowder, they don't really even have a lot of female guests. And especially from the right-hand side, I will say this, it's an imbalance because a lot of times on the left you have only women and they don't even want men. So I prefer the mentality about humanity where you kind of have both people participating and we're on the same team as opposed to warring factions. And then the other thing is I do it more now probably because I used to teach and I sometimes miss the interaction. I don't miss actual teaching that much. I don't really, at least the kind of teaching I used to do, which was I was a university professor for a while. I miss the interaction part of it. I don't miss other parts of it all that much, but I do miss I miss interacting with students and people in terms of exchanging ideas and having open conversations, and sadly that's not even as common on university campuses as it used to be.
Right.
That was a big part of how I taught, and I do sometimes find that YouTube you get more of that now than you get in the classroom, sadly.
Absolutely. So what was your expertise? What's your specialty?
I teach in the field of health, or I taught in the field of health and education and medicine. At first, I taught almost exclusively terminology and sexuality. And so I have all sorts of opinions about that and about a lot of the sort of things they're pushing about transgender and other et al. And I also do some education stuff. So I've taught about I've taught a range of classes and I've taught at a range of institutions. So I've taught at med schools, I've taught at big public universities, and then toward the end I tried teaching at a really small private college where I love the area. But yeah, I think it was partly burnout on my part because it does get repetitive. Yeah. And it was also partly, it really is changing. Higher education is heading in a direction, and it's not, in my opinion, a positive one.
Indeed, I totally agree with that. All right, so when you're on on streams or something, how much would you say is you? That people get that are getting.
People who've seen me on streams before. You mean how much is me as my person, or how much do I get and do I consume things?
Just
I tend to be all consuming. That's something I'm working on. I tend to be a little bit much. And in terms of how much it's me, I try to be honest, but I don't obviously I don't like to air my personal life. Let's put it this way. I don't think of streaming as therapy for me, which I know some people do, and I have no problem with that, but that's not what I'm not here to work out my personal problems, which I don't have a problem with people who do that. I think in some cases that's not a bad thing at all. If you need a sounding board and that's a good sounding board for you, good for you. But I do tend to get a little heavy-handed with my opinions and a little overexcited at times. I use what's called, my friends will sometimes pick on me. When I get really passionate is probably the nicest way to say it about something, I have a tendency to use my teacher voice, and I get a little loud and a little domineering because I'm used to having to like sometimes talk over people.
Man the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little too good at that at times. I don't know sometimes when to turn it off.
Right. Give me another test. I'm trying to pull your
would it help? I can pull. I'm on a gaming headset, so would it help like that? I pulled the mic away a little bit.
Say it again.
Is it if I'm too loud, I can pull my mic away a little bit?
You're doing fine. No, you weren't loud enough.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's usually not a problem for me, but I can check too. My sound levels might be.
Well, it's about the Discord. Sometimes it comes in a little hot, and I have to turn it back when I show stuff from VLC. Sometimes
now it's probably okay. I just turned it up, but now it's probably good. Everyone's gonna be like, too loud.
Oh, you're good. Sounds good. Sorry about that. Just you know me and my technical shit, people. I got a boomer at least once an episode. All right. Now we get into some of my favorite questions, and this one being one that I love asking everybody first because it's kind of a good one out the gate. Is there a food from your childhood that you hated, but now as an adult you love it?
Tomato soup. I hated it when I was a kid. Actually, a lot of food. My parents were the original. You have to try a little bit of everything, and I was the only kid in my school eating like gazpacho, sprouts, black olive quiche. Like my mother was very into like chefery before it was a thing, and I tried a lot of stuff that I was forced to eat against my will. That I'm glad I was forced now because I do have a better palate probably. And I hated tomato soup because my babysitter would always feed it to me. And now if I'm sick, I like immediately want that. And like grilled cheese and tomato soup is like my favorite thing.
Yeah, it is comfort food from hell, isn't it? It's good stuff. Not from hell, from heaven. See? It is good comfort food.
It's good for you too. Like when you're craving it, I always think you must need lycopene. So I always try to have tomato soup in the house.
Nice. All right. So using one word, how would you describe your family growing
up? Good. Very good. I mean, at the time you're kind of a snotty little kid and you're a pain in the ass, and you get older and you suddenly realize how lucky you were. Because my family was intact, which is becoming less common. We were a little unusual in that my father was quite a bit older than my mother, and quite a bit he was much older than like all of my friends' dads.
Right.
And we were different. I mean, in terms of like we did different things maybe than other people, but that was good because I learned a lot. We were very appreciative of nature. Like we went on I was forced. This is one thing I kind of try to appreciate. As a small child, I watched way more PBS and BBC than I care to remember. We were forced like on Sundays to sit through hours of like National Geographic in silence. I watched a lot of All Creatures Great and Small, just PBS to the point where I used to hate the sound of like their little logos and that like the appearance and and this is sponsored by the ExxonMobil Corporation. Yeah, but I mean we also did like a lot of like nature walks, and we were very like focused on education and nature, and yeah. I mean, I think of that now as all very positive things, and the fact that my parents were together and stayed together is a very positive thing. I was the baby, so I had it pretty easy, probably relative to my siblings would tell you. I had it really easy.
So, what kind of kid were you?
Probably a brat. I mean, I don't recall specifically. I mean, I was a brat, but I was also fairly obedient. In fact, that was probably to my detriment as I got older. I was one of those. I had a very healthy fear of authority. Like I was not very good at challenging people or things, and in some sense, I wish I was less demure as a kid. I wish I was more capable of like standing up for myself. And so I was kind of a high energy, kind of annoying, kind of the baby.
So how many siblings do you have?
Well, I have two siblings. My sister and my brother are older than I am by 5 and 7 years, and I have half siblings, but I didn't really grow up with them. My father's first wife passed away rather suddenly, and so he had 2 children, lost his wife, and then subsequently married my mother, and then I grew up with my 2 siblings. So I know my half sister, and I've never met my half brother. But like, you know, very traditional, small, you know, family, relatively like normal, I would say.
Is there like a favorite holiday or time of year that you hold special?
No, we were not religious. So I mean, in terms of like holidays and things like that, you know, we were very, you know, everybody did Christmas, everybody did Easter. It was all about like, you know, chocolate at Easter, food at Thanksgiving, presents at Christmas. I mean, we were fairly traditional people, but we weren't. It wasn't rooted in like strict. My mother was Catholic. My father's Episcopal, which, if you know anything about them, are basically the same thing, slightly different. Yeah. Episcopalians are basically Catholic light.
No Pope.
But they were both lapsed, so it wasn't like we were. And I went to church with like friends as I got older just to try it out. But organized religion is not something I've ever really taken to. I've tried a lot of different ones in terms of like going with people, but I never really feel. And I don't mean that as a derogatory thing toward people, because I appreciate faith and communities of faith more as I get older, even though it's not necessarily something I want to participate in. Like, I appreciate what they do for people, and I appreciate what they do for communities. And if somebody asks me to go to church, I usually go with them, just because it's, you know, not every day. Like, if you keep asking every Sunday, eventually I'm going to say no. But in terms of like, if somebody asks me to go, I'm always down to visit somebody's church and like experience a service.
I've had a similar like awakening, or not awakening, but like a open-mindedness and a tolerance of, you know, other people's beliefs and the fact that makes them happy, right? And you know, I came from a real judging and real like, you know, anti-theistic position when I was a lot younger, and now I've grown into it. You know, I actually admire some people of faith, you know, because of their faith. You know,
absolutely. I've come to appreciate faith in terms of the role it plays in society, and I think I mean, without giving too much away about myself in terms of how incredibly old I am, I came from a generation where the cynicism about religion was just starting to sort of really kick into high gear, and I was, you know, probably raised with a little bit of cynicism about it. And now as I get older and I start to look around and I see people who are really almost sort of virulently hating on faith, or at least particular communities of faith, and becoming really sort of toxic and negative about it, I start to appreciate communities of faith more and people who have faith more, and I don't completely understand the hatred. And the other thing too that I find fascinating is you see a lot of atheists now who are like, they act like somehow they're different. I'm like, if you listen to yourselves, you're the same coin, you're just a different side. Like, they are just as, you know, as arrogant and as condescending as the most like adamant and ardent practicer of any faith. It's just that their faith is no faith. I mean, but they get just as like, we're right, you're wrong, as anybody else. It's the idea that and that's what I fear. It's the extremes. I don't care what your faith is. It's the extremes where things run into problems. But most people aren't at the extremes. And for most people, if they are members of faith communities, it does a lot of good for them. And I don't think that they should ever be ridiculed or shamed for that. I think they should be applauded for dedicating themselves to something that they believe in, and to giving usually of themselves to a community.
I can't disagree with the word you just said, because, you know, it's I knew you would be a good guest. See, you know, all right. So, all right, what about you personally with schooling? What was that like growing up?
Schooling was hard for me in the sense that where I was, it was at a very small school. To give you an idea, my graduating class was 73 people. And I joined that graduating class by doubling up my last year because I was bored. So schooling for me was a problem because I was probably a little too smart, and the school was in a very rural area, and people who thought differently were not fully appreciated. That sounds so
Right.
awful, but it's true. At the time, I mean, the reality is, but I mean, I was also into sports. I was pretty athletic, and I stayed pretty like active in terms of like played soccer, played basketball. Female athletes were really common in my school too. It wasn't like there wasn't just like jocks and like cheerleaders. My school was like athletics really ran across. You were never like the idea that you would be a female athlete was never looked down upon. A lot of probably at least half the girls of the school played some sort of a sport, and usually we played all 3 seasons. I mean, it wasn't like we had people who were going on to like professional sports. We just were like an athletic school. And so out in the country, I was probably like a little out of my depths in terms of like I got bored quickly. There wasn't a lot that the school could do. That's a problem with rural schools in general, though. It's nothing just related to mine. If you have a small school, there's only so much they can do. I mean,
Right.
like a lot of teachers taught double classes just to like 73 people in one class, which I'm sure it's bigger now, is you got to do. And that's 73 people, including, let's see, the year I doubled up, I graduated early because I just wanted to get the hell out of there and like move on to like college where I could take college classes. Somebody else, they slid through early because she was pregnant and about to have a baby. And then another guy who I knew, he doubled up at the end because he had gotten held back, and he had like, I think he just wanted to like make up for the fact that he'd gotten held back. Like it was like he had like a chip on his shoulder about it. He was a really nice guy. And so yeah, I left and I had started school early because they used to let you start school early, like in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And so I went to college my first week and I was 16 years old. And so that was a little early probably in terms of like maturity level to be starting. And then I had something very bad happen my first week of college. And so my freshman year was rough and it started early, but I got through. And then after that I went to the Peace Corps.
Okay. So all right. So kind of summing up your younger days, what would you say the craziest thing you did as a kid? This is one of my check marks. Yeah.
God, I was not a crazy kid. I'm telling you, I was a very like obedient and demure child. I didn't skip school. I didn't do drugs. I didn't drink. I'm not saying I stuck with those things through the rest of my life, but no, I was really good. Like in high school in particular, I was so afraid of getting in trouble and being bad. Like I was one of those goody two shoes kids.
Yeah, I was
and
like
then I went
that
to
in
college.
elementary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elementary, even high school, I was very well behaved. I was I was that kid who probably annoyed other people by being like too good. I was too good. I mean, I lost that when I went to college pretty quickly. I shed that. I left that behind.
You did, man.
Yeah. I left that behind rather. I mean, I didn't turn evil or anything. There wasn't that much darkness like involved in my college years. But yeah, I let go of the goody two shoes. But I was pretty much a very like I was like always trying to like I was in like the gifted program. I wanted my teachers to like me. I wanted to be a good kid. I didn't want to be like a bad kid. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't like being grounded. I was a good kid.
Yeah. So, if you could go back and talk to yourself at the age of 8, what would you tell little Belle?
Oh my God, that's so bad. So much. There's so much I would do differently in life because, like, I think like that's, like, I don't even think it's like I regret stuff. It's. Oh wait a minute, did I lose you?
No.
Okay.
I'm here.
I'm sorry,
Good.
my little thing wasn't popping up. I thought maybe I had my computer was going to sleep. How do I say this? I have not had a bad life. I don't regret a lot of stuff, but like I would tell myself to do everything differently, like probably because I'd want to try different things. I'd be like, I don't know, join the military, get a tattoo. I don't know. I'd like probably smoke pot in high school. Snort coke. Try. I'd probably tell myself to be a little crazier and do different things and like try different things. But then I don't like. It's not because I regret like how my life turned out or because I regret the choices I made. It's just that. Like I think you always wish once you start sliding past, like the point of like being able to do certain things, you're like, oh, I should have done that. Just to like join. Like I saw a thing once when I was like right at the cusp phasing out, where the New York State troopers, because I grew up in New York, were having a test to become a trooper, and I'm like, I should become a New York State trooper. And my mom's like, are you out of your f***ing mind? And I'm like, I just want to see what it's like. Like, I don't know, like I'd want to be a state trooper just to see what it was like, or join the FBI just to see what it was like. Not that I'd actually want to do that or be happy, and you can't do everything, but I'd probably tell like little Belle to like try 30 or 40 stupid things that I didn't do because I was doing other stuff.
That's a fair answer, I think. So what about the first time you noticed boys?
Oh my God, that's such an odd question. I don't know. I must have been really young. I mean, I had tons of crushes when I was a little kid. I can still remember some of them, probably.
Right.
Like, I can still picture, there's one kid in my school I like totally had a thing for ever since we were in like elementary school together. And so I like, thought the world of him almost till like till I graduated. There were a couple guys like, they like from like being little kids to like till we graduated. Well, till I graduated first though. That I totally had crushes on. So yeah, I mean, but that's like everybody, I think. Especially especially in a little school. Like, I didn't have a lot of choices. You have to understand, like when I say I graduated with 73 people, the class behind me which would have been my class, was 73 people probably or thereabouts too. And like most of us, probably at least 80% of us had been together since kindergarten, of the same people.
Right.
And mostly we were still divided. They weren't doing the like whole like let's mix everybody together thing. And so like if you were in the A class or the B class or the C class, it was an even smaller pool of people you saw every single day. So like from kindergarten to like 12th grade, and we didn't even mix a lot because my school was like K through 6 in one building, and then 7 through 12 in another building. There wasn't even really like a division for middle school and junior high. It was just all one big giant, but small in the sense that like from kindergarten to like senior year, pretty much everybody was the same. You saw the same faces year after year after year after year. Yeah. And I mean, and in that sense, I wish there had been a way, like, and there was no, I mean, this was, I will date myself somewhat. This was before there was like the internet. So it's not like you could go, which is probably good. I had a much more innocent childhood than the youngsters of today. You couldn't like go meet random people online, or even people from the next, like, I used to meet people sometimes. I'd go to like the big library in the city, like one city over, but other than that you just didn't meet people that you didn't already know. Your entire small towns are like that. I mean, I grew up in a very small town.
Right. So what
yeah.
did that kind of change when you got to college? Dating?
Yeah, my college was still very sheltered, though. I mean, I was going at the age of 16.
Yeah.
And I was graduating at the age of 20. So my parents did not want me going any place too crazy. And so I went to a beautiful college in a valley that was like, it was a lot more people, but it was pretty well contained. But it was good because I got to meet people a lot of people from Long Island went to my school. A lot of people from nearby cities went to my school. So yeah, I did get to meet a lot more people, and that was kind of fun. And, in terms of like branching out in that respect, but I was still fairly sheltered. It was still really safe. You didn't have to it was not hard to get around. You walked everywhere. Yeah. I mean, I still don't I don't mind going to big cities, but I don't like living in them. I still don't like that. It's too much people and too much going. Like, I don't like I don't mind going to visit. I really don't ever want to live in a really big city.
Right.
Watch it. I'm cursing myself, so now I'll get like a job and have to move to some giant metropolis.
Well, it's like, it's like Manhattan has got like this rhythm to it, and this really kind of almost pressure, like it's like you can feel the city's uptight.
Well, they also think differently. Particularly people who've been there like transgenerationally. We used to be merciless. This sounds kind of mean, but we used to be merciless to the Long Island people because they really were kind of disconnected from how the world worked as far as we were concerned. I'm sure they thought the same thing about us, but like about different stuff. And we would like try to mess with them. And I know we did actually get this one girl to truly believe that chocolate milk came from brown cows. And I was like, oh, I almost felt bad for her, and I almost felt bad for doing it, but like, she had no concept. Like, her version of, like, she lived in on Long Island but close to the city. Her life was like all in a city. She had like no concept of like, she thought like the wilds of like leaving the city were like as soon as like you couldn't see the skyscrapers anymore, things got weird. But like, I mean, and I have a close friend, a family friend who I would go stay with who lived in Brooklyn Heights. And I would visit her, and she's older, like she's like my mom's age. And she had been there so long, you could tell it was like changed how she viewed the world. And that's not a bad thing. It was just weird because I mean, they really see things very differently. And you know, it's like looking, they I'm sure say the same things about us, but there is a disconnect. Even like, I know a while back, they caught some guy on, I think it was Twitter. He was looking at a plane and he was looking at farm fields and he was like, I wonder why the ground looks like that. And he posted the picture and he was asking people who were like, oh, dude, like you don't understand how food works. That's so sad. But I mean, I think that's what happens when you're in cities. Like you lose track of like, well, that's one thing I didn't get into from my childhood. One thing that was very different about how I grew up was we were taught where food came from in like a very real and tangible sense. So I was taught to can. We did a garden where like we grew massive amounts. What we would do is we would go in the summer. It was kind of like camping, but we would go to this old church that my father had bought on a whim, but it was pretty rough. So like outhouses. It was like 100-year-old church, and we would sleep in like the pews, and we farmed where the stables had been because obviously that was pretty.
Oh yeah.
The horses had done well in terms of fertilizing, and it was funny too because we would always dig up horseshoes. We dug up a lot of horseshoes, so it was really neat, and we learned like this. And one summer we raised chickens and slaughtered them ourselves. So the idea was we weren't really farmers. Like a lot of my friends are farmers because I grew up in a rural area. But we were taught, look, food does not come from a little plastic.
Right.
Food comes from, and a lot of my friends are dairy farmers, so I have some insight into how that industry works too. This is where food comes from. Food was an animal, food was a plant, and the plant didn't just pop up out of the ground by itself. A lot of work went into making sure, And if you want to like survive, particularly in New York, I live in the South now, but where the winter is harsh, you don't just sit on your ass. You work and you store your food and you think ahead. It's not, people, I think that's what's interesting about some people from the city, and not all, but some people really think farmers are stupid. You can't be stupid and survive. Farmers are actually usually pretty smart, and especially like modern commercial farmers. You are not talking about this idea that they're dumb hicks. No, I mean they may be smart about different things than you are, but they're these are people who think ahead. They know how government programs work. They understand fertilizer. They understand pesticides. They understand the mechanics of very large and complicated machines. They understand rotation of crops. I mean they use, most of them, the really big ones, work with universities in terms of trying new products, in terms of how they get their fields to yield more, setting up contracts with businesses, because it's very popular now to like contract with a particular restaurant and you have to supply them a particular type of vegetable. I mean, these are not dumb people, because if you want to go, particularly up north where your growing seasons are short, they can be heavily affected. I mean, you don't harvest your wheat in time, and the wrong kind of storm comes through, and you've just lost tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So the idea that rural life, we at least were taught from and on a much smaller scale, survival. If things go wrong, you have to actually take care of yourself. Take some doing. So like heating your home with wood, we were taught how to do that. We were taught how to bake. We were taught how to can. We were taught how to dry food. We were taught all of that stuff. And I don't use it as much as I probably should, but it serves me well. And if the world falls apart, which, let's face facts, is a lot more realistic sounding now than it has been in the past, I am ready. Damn it. I am ready. And will owe my parents a great debt of gratitude for all the things they taught me about all that stuff.
That's cool. All right, what about the first time you got shit-faced? Kind of pulling back to the questions here.
Well, I mean, when I would that I made a conscious decision. When I was little, they would let us drink on the holidays, and I would sometimes drink way too much champagne, and then I'd just pass out. Yes, but no. I mean, the first time I got shit-faced, like really shit-faced. I mean, I drank in high school, but I didn't get shit-faced. It was more like drinking to like be silly and just try alcohol.
Right.
I think probably college and probably like shortly thereafter, because I went to a school where drinking was. We had like frat party. We had frats and sororities, and so you'd go to a frat party and you'd buy a cup for $5 and you drink as much shitty beer as you could basically.
That's right.
Chug in an evening. Yeah. So keg parties were really
Keggers.
big. Yeah. Keggers were huge. Frat parties were huge. Yeah. We just boozed. I don't know if
So
that's
was there a lot of
popular
like
or what.
weed or like?
My school was not
hallucinogen
big
in?
on weed. It's funny, I was in the state university system. The university one over from us that I could have gone to but didn't. That was like the weed school.
Right.
We were like a booze school. I'm not saying there wasn't weed, but like it wasn't as common. And this is something that's weird too. Like you think of weed now because it's becoming legal. It's like such a minor thing. Like where I was, I mean, like and how I was raised, because I was raised by my mother would drink, but like occasionally, and my father just flat out didn't drink, not for like religious reasons, or he just didn't care for it. He'd been an MP in the army, and he didn't like the look of how drunken people acted, and so he just never drank. Well, so I mean, weed when I was in school was like heroin now. I mean, it was like this idea that if you knew somebody who smoked weed, it was terrible. And then I got to college and I realized it wasn't such a big thing, but a lot of the people I associated with still thought of it as like there was still a little bit of that, like if you smoked a joint, you were on the path to like
becoming an axe murderer.
Yeah, and a life of addiction and stuff. You were done for pretty much. That was still like a very prevalent attitude. Like the idea is if you smoked a joint, the next thing you were pretty much going to be hitting the skids. And
you're going to be sucking dicks from fix to fix, man.
Yeah, to get your next fix. I mean, and that kind of war, I realized was not obviously realistic. I kind of got a sense that was probably overselling it. But I mean, I went to school. In fact, one of my suite mates was like, "Oh my God, it's so much worse." I'm like, "I don't think it's that much worse than alcohol." She's like, "Oh my God, you're insane. It's terrible."
Oh, they had,
you're gonna die.
Right, I was programmed to think the exact same shit.
Yeah, those DARE programs, that Nancy Reagan stuff, apparently hit its mark because that stuck with people for a long time.
Well, even before that, I remember Dragnet scaring the shit out of me, man. With there was a show called Dragnet, and
I never watched it, but I've heard of it.
Did a lot of pot, and people freaking out and jumping off of roofs and shit, because they're high.
Oh, we had those. What happened to those? They used to have the best PSAs, like after school special type things.
Yeah.
After school specials used to like scar you. I know they had one. Oh, they had one in elementary school. I still remember it was about how you weren't supposed to walk in front of the school bus. And I mean, I mostly walked to school, so I don't even remember. But they basically showed this child getting hit by a school bus because she was trying to run to her mother and dying in the road. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, I'm gonna die. It was like, so it was mentally like traumatic. I can still remember the whole thing. And what was the other one? They had a couple that like, the Native American. I grew up with those commercials with the Native American cried, and it turns out I guess the actor was Italian, so
it was Italian.
Yeah. But those like the idea that you littered to me was you were a horrible, and I still kind of think that actually. I mean, I don't disagree with them, but I mean that got me on a visceral level. Like I felt like if I ever even missed the garbage can, I was a terrible human being with no soul, who is basically like spitting on all of the Native Americans in the world and their like heritage, and I was just like that commercial completely. They should play that still or like redo it because that totally got to me. The Native American crying as he looked at how shitty America was and how people threw their garbage underground.
Garbage was everywhere.
Oh, it stayed with me like my entire life. That will be with me till I die. That image of that man crying. And the fact he was Italian.
Yeah. Well, and one of those the commercial things that I've done, you'll see him come up every once in a while. So, yeah, that's a classic, I think.
It is. They should. I mean, they should redo it with an actual Native American. When I found out he was Italian, I was pretty like that hurt. But but I feel like that was such an effective. They don't do that to kids anymore. They don't try to mentally scar them anymore, and there's something to be said for that. You do enough psychological damage, and they will remember. Yeah. That's actually a psychological principle from behavior, like because I used to teach behavioral classes. Yeah, you don't like it, but the negative stuff leaves a bigger mark than trying to than trying to be positive. Sorry, kids, it's true.
All right, so it's kind of all right. We're going to shift gears and kind of get into personal aesthetics here. Well, all right. So, what was the first recorded music you remember getting?
Probably I was a huge Duran Duran fan. I'm like dating myself now. I was like a huge Duran Duran fan. I thought they were like This was back when like men didn't have to look so manly, I guess. Like I was so into them. I was like huge Duran Duran fan. Like just like thought they were the sun, the moon, and the stars. Now I listen to their music and I'm like, that was kind of dumb.
My missus is a huge Duran Duran.
I should add something. When I was really little, like too little to remember it, apparently I had a thing for John Denver. Because I would cry if they wouldn't play it in the car. Like, I mean, like cry, like throw hissy fits, like throw temper tantrums. And I'm like, I have no recollection of this whatsoever. And my mom's like, you were unbearable if we would not play John Denver. He was like apparently, my mom liked him until I became obsessed with him, and then she stopped, I think, liking him. I ruined John Denver for my mother. Yeah, now I have no, like, I can listen to him now and I can like I learned his song at the time. I was so little I don't remember. All I know is apparently like if they would turn him off, I would freak out. Was what I was told. So I guess that was my first musical crush.
Nifty. So do you play a musical instrument, by the way?
No, I studied the trumpet, but that was a dumb thing to pick up. It's the it's not a very feminine instrument. It's not fun to play. I think we had one and I was like, oh, I'll just learn the trumpet. It's terrible. I hate it. I should have tried something else. And I tried the piano. It's funny because my dad was really musical, but no, I should have, you know what I should have taken up, and I still sometimes wish I could learn is drums. That probably would have been more my speed. I should have been a drummer, but no, I'm not. Nice. I appreciate music, but I'm just not good at making it.
All right, so all right, moving on. Let's see, we touched on that. All right, so class reunions. Have you been big on those, or?
I've been to my college reunion. Some friends were like, "You gotta go," and I'm like, "All right." Those are not fun, though. I didn't really enjoy it. It was I went for my 10 year because my friends were like, you gotta go, and I'm like, so that's how old I am, and it was not. I didn't like it. I mean, it was nice to see my friends, but like looking at like how young everybody looked, I was like, oh, this just makes me feel old and bitter. I don't think we should do this again.
No doubt. No doubt.
You know, it's nice. You go back and like you can like have the pizza that you had in college, and you can look around and see how much everything's changed. But mostly, I was like, I don't want to do this again. Everybody looks young and we look old, and I don't like it. So that, and I don't know, my high school, they probably send stuff out. I'm just never there, and I don't really ever want to go. Like right. I see the people I want to see. Like I was home recently for an extended period of time, and I saw it was great. I got to see a lot of my friends. Like getting to visit them and spend time with them and hang out with them, but not like I don't want to just go see people I didn't like in high school just because we're older now. That doesn't seem like a really good proposition. I ran into somebody the other time when I was home, and she was nice to me, but it took me like a half an hour to realize who the hell she even was. So, I don't know. I don't recommend reunions, I guess. I'm not against them. I've never really.
Well, and somebody pointed out to me that Facebook has taken, like, you know, a lot of energy out of people's desire to do, the younger people than us, right? To do that because they're all still in touch with each other.
You know, you're right, because I'm connected through Facebook. I don't use it a lot, but to people like I didn't even talk to, like they all like connect to you. And I mean, I don't use Facebook, so I'm just sort of like a dead profile on there. But yeah, people, if I want to check on what people are up to and what they're doing, they'll tell you more than you want to know, I guess, would be Facebook's purpose.
All right, so this is the point where we talk about like relationships, marriages, kids.
I've never been married, never been divorced, never had kids, and never regretted any of it. I know there are some people like marriage is really important to them. It was just never something that like I never really felt compelled to go out and seek. Like,
right.
I always figured if I maybe because Disney affected me too deeply. I always figured, if I meet somebody great, and I thought I could genuinely like stick with it my whole life, I would totally be down. Like, I don't think marriage is a bad thing. And I know some people who've like made it work, and I wouldn't want to do it if I didn't think I could make it work. Like, I don't want to get married just to have a wedding, and I don't want to get married just to have. I definitely didn't want to have kids if I wasn't getting married. I can tell you that much. Fuck that. I mean, no offense to people who do it on their own, but that is way too much work.
I heard that.
That is too much. Yeah, too much work and too much pressure. For me, I just wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to do it to myself. I wouldn't want to do it to a kid. I'm like more into dogs. That's like my speed.
I was gonna say you're a dog or cat person.
Both actually. I've had dogs and cats, but Dobermans usually are what I have. We have I just lost my second, but we have one Doberman left in the family, and we don't have any cats at the moment, which is weird for us. And yeah, I'm very like we've always had. That's one thing we've always had in my family is pets. We had I don't know if you've ever heard of Oscars, the fish.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Really big, yeah. Growing up, our kitchen, like we had a giant fish tank, like I think it was like 150 gallons. And the Oscars would like, well, we would eat dinner, they would eat dinner too. So we'd watch, while we were eating, we'd watch Oscars eat goldfish. And like I said, we raised chickens, but like we raised chickens with the idea that like these are not pets, these are food. And like we had cats and dogs, all that growing up. So we always, and we had a cockatiel that lived like, oh my God, like 30 years that thing lived. So we've always been like a pet. I've always been an animal person. I can like count probably very few times in my life where I haven't had a pet, like an animal in my life, and somebody else hasn't, or somebody in the family hasn't had more than one. We're animal people.
That's sweet. Yeah, I'm about ready to get a dog.
I highly recommend Dobermans.
Yeah, they're like, all right. So are they kind of I know that I like short-haired, right?
Very easy to care for, very affectionate, contrary to what the racists, the anti-Doberman Hollywood people would have you believe. They're not vicious unless you train them to be. They're extremely smart, though. They're the only dog that might actually kind of sometimes outsmart you. So you can't ignore them, and you have to like engage with them. They're really smart. Like they can understand you when you talk more than you sometimes would ever think a dog could. They're very loyal. They're very affectionate. They're great. They're surprisingly good with kids. It's just a question of how you raise them. I mean, if you get one that like through a rescue and you don't know its history, somebody else might have done something terrible to it. But like if you get one that you raise yourself, they can be adaptable to almost any kind of lifestyle. They're very smart, very athletic. I like to hike. I don't do it as much as I should anymore, but I loved the school I was at. Last time I taught was up in New Hampshire. And I mean, it was great. I'd take my two dogs and I would hike every single day, like up in the mountains, through the trees. I loved it. And that's kind of one of the things I miss about like not having like two big dogs. We ran into bears once, so that's why the two dogs were kind of critical. That and I would hike alone. And if you're a woman and you hike alone, you either need a gun and or two really large dogs is a good way to
doggos, dude.
Yeah.
No shit. All right. So, all right. Shifting back into the aesthetic stuff, what about what's your favorite horror movie or director?
Oh, that's easy. Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
That's a great movie.
I love that movie.
It is a fun movie.
It is such a great movie. I don't know why. It's like there's something about it. I think it's because you talk about aesthetics. Like the aesthetics of that are like spectacular, and like just the whole plot. It's fun and silly, but like it's not like scary. So like if you wanted me to name like a particularly like that's not a scary movie, but it's like that's I always say like that's my Citizen Kane. Is Killer Clowns from Outer. I took a film class. My film professor would just about like die if I said that, but I have always loved that movie. I just like the idea that you kill them by, not to spoil the film for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, you kill them by popping their big red noses. I don't know why that cracks me up.
It's funny as
there were some scary parts in that too, though. There actually are a few like genuinely kind of scary moments in that film.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a fun film, and you can't see it enough. Just saying, people.
You can't see it enough, and you should see it 2 times. Once just to see it, and the second time high as a kite, because it's even better.
That's right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's a very fun movie. What about authors, science fiction, horror? You got anybody you like to read?
I mean, I write books, and then I like to read books. So, Karen Armstrong, if you're ever interested in like nonfiction, is good. Anita Diamante. I hope I'm saying her last name right. I'm going to say it wrong. Who wrote the Poisonwood Bible? Kingsolver. Barbara Kingsolver. I really love her books. When I was little, I read a ton of Stephen King. I was like a huge Stephen King fan. But then, no offense to Stephen King, you kind of grow out of him. That sounds so mean. That, and I mean, at some point,
realistic. No, you're right. You're right. You got a point.
Yeah. Well, and he also, I mean, I do think he's got a little like his, and I mean, at some point, he's written how many books? Like, it does get a little. I think sometimes he runs out of road. Like, I don't know. Like, 'cause his earlier books and some of his short stories are actually, I think, some of his best.
I mean,
books.
a sponge can only hold so much water.
Yeah, and I don't, and it's not that I don't think he's a good author, because I think some of his, particularly his short stories,
his character development is fantastic. He's really good at creating 3-dimensional character people, right?
Yeah,
he knows people really well, but yeah.
Some really good stuff. And then who's that? There's another author I like, because every one of her books sounds like it's written by a different person. Joyce Carol Oates.
Oh wow.
If you ever read her stuff and you don't like it, just read a different thing by her. She fascinates me as an author, just because I have never seen anybody who can write 2 books and sound like they're 2 different people wrote them. Like, completely like she sounds like a different person wrote every single book she wrote.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. To be able to create that voice.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea that she can do that fascinates me, and I feel like there's a lot to learn just by reading. Like, if you just read 3 of her books in a row, they'll all be very different, and you'll learn sort of how adaptable somebody can be. Kingsolver does that too. If you've never read it, if there was one book I recommend people read, it's probably the Poisonwood Bible. That's a really good book. Oh, you know who else I highly recommend is like an old book is Pearl Buck. My mother.
Oh yeah.
Because her books have a lot of relevance, particularly to what's going on in the world now. You wouldn't think so, but she writes a lot about China, and secondly, she writes about some things like the idea that there's this cycle of what one generation learns to appreciate in times of need, the next generation completely forgets and loses track of, and the idea that through hardship you learn lessons, and then through abundance those lessons are lost. And I think you see that going on in today's world, where there's that cycle of those who suffered and didn't have security understand things in a very different way than those who grew up with exceptional abundance and had these very strange ideas about what an actual need is. And so if you read Pearl Buck, you get a lot of that from her work. And I think that's a very important lesson now more than ever before. So if you've never read The Good Earth, my God, please read it. It's well worth reading.
Cool. All right. So what about do you have a sci-fi author?
Oh boy. I mean, I've read Clark and Philip Dick. I love that name. Every time I say it, I laugh. I'm not it's funny. I'm writing a sci-fi book right now, because I'm trying to get into I like writing it more than I like reading it. I'm not opposed. I like sci-fi movies. My brother was really into sci-fi, like Spider Robinson and some really out there stuff. I don't know. I never fell in love with any particular sci-fi. You know who I like who's kind of sci-fi, I should say? Aldous Huxley. And Orwell, I don't know if Orwell counts as sci-fi. He's more like...
Yeah. I would say it's 1984 and Brave New World are both science fiction books.
Yeah. Then I would say probably, if you were asking me my 2 favorite, it would be Huxley and Orwell, because I find their books very enjoyable to read, and I also find the deeper meaning.
HBO did a really, really good miniseries based on A Brave New World, and it's the best thing I've ever seen adaptation wise.
Really?
It's perfect. You know, they depict the society well. You know, and then the guy that they call the Savage, his character is really good in it. There's a couple of places where you go, oh, okay, but it's not really wokey woke. So,
yeah, I'll have to watch that because I'm aware of it, but I avoided it. And based on your recommendation, I'll try to make a point of seeing it.
Well, check it out and tell me what you think, and we can talk about it. It's like because it's got its strong points, and it's got a couple of spots where you go, oh, okay, well, that was a weird choice, but whatever.
Yeah, some of the I had been avoiding it because some of the previews made it look like it went a little too far off script, and some of the things I'd read about it made it look like a little too far. But I mean, if you think it was worth watching, I definitely will make a point of watching because I don't watch a lot of like.
I truly enjoyed it. It's like 4 to 6 episodes, so it's really a tight little deal.
Okay.
They did a good job with that, I thought. All right, what about? All right, you said you took a film class, so what would you say is the greatest movie ever made?
Oh, according to my film professor.
According to you.
I watched a lot of Akira Kurosawa and Renoir films. A Touch of Evil was interesting. I mean, I didn't really ever get into the actual Citizen Kane all that much. Kurosawa films are interesting in terms of what, like the emotional engagement. Japanese films are interesting. I mean, I will say I grew up loving foreign films. Like I like French films. I like all that. Recently, movies to me have taken a real downturn. I like surrealist films. I don't think you can have a favorite film because first off, like what film is going to hit you depends partly on your mood.
Yeah.
Like if you're not,
no, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and some movies are amazing, but you can only watch them once. Like Dances with Wolves is an amazing film. You watch that once and you're done because that's like I can't watch that twice. It's emotionally devastating. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, but like I don't have the emotional like I can't be devastated like that more than once. That's like going to a funeral twice.
Yeah.
I just don't want.
It's like watching The Deer Hunter. God damn.
Oh yeah, that's another one that you're like, oh, that was hard. There's movies like that are great, but they're like a one-shot deal. Like you watch them, they change who you are, and like I can't watch them twice. There's great movies you can only watch once, and then there's other movies like Killer Clowns you can watch like 30 times. Oh, Bubble Boy, that's the stupidest. I love that movie.
Bubble Boy.
I could watch Bubble Boy like 50 times. It's the dumbest. I laugh my ass off every time I watch it.
The one with John Travolta.
Jake Gyllenhaal. No.
The Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, not the John Travolta thing. No, Jake Gyllenhaal. And the people were mean about it. I think it's like one of the funniest movies ever made. And if I'm ever sad, I'll watch that movie. If you have never seen it, you're missing out. Like totally dumb.
Have you ever seen that movie Enemy? That's got Jake Gyllenhaal in it.
Enemy. I don't think so. What's it about?
It's about like he finds this dude that looks just like him in this city.
Oh yeah. Is that the one where is that the one that ends with a spider?
It starts with the spider, and ends with the spider.
Yeah, I have seen that one. I had a lot of questions. I preferred Bubble Boy.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of good movies. I'll give him credit. He picks a lot of weird flicks, but as an actor, he picks some good scripts to like.
What was the name of that movie that he and Hugh Jackman?
Oh no, you're thinking of Brokeback Mountain.
No, not that one. I'm thinking of where Hugh Jackman's kid goes missing. And
yeah. And I know.
Prisoners,
that
is that what it's called? Prisoners, maybe.
I don't know, but I know what you're talking about.
That's another one of those, man, like a gut punch. It's like a.
Yeah, a lot of his films fly under the radar, but there's a lot of he does a lot of twisted psychology.
Nightcrawler.
Nightcrawler was.
That's a great movie, man. Yeah.
That's a great movie in terms of commentary on just the media in general.
I fucking hate all of their politics, but god damn it, they can make some good movies sometimes. Those people.
Sometimes some movies, and it's usually the ones where they don't bother with the politics, but that's becoming sadly very rare. You can't watch. I don't watch a lot of TV, and I don't watch a lot of movies.
Oh, dude, especially a lot of the new streaming formats that are just coming out like lava.
Yeah, it's the idea that it's so
Unending.
heavy-handed. They don't. The message is primary, and the entertainment is like an afterthought. And they're so transparent that it's. Excuse me. I think part of what it is to me is like they think people are stupid. I don't like the insult to my intelligence. Like, you think I don't know what you're doing?
Right.
Like,
You know, the only people that don't do that are like Scandinavians and shit. You know?
well, and a lot of it is also like, I feel like saying, okay, what world do you live in? Like, this is not like the 1940s anymore. So stop portraying life in America like that. Like, I grew up here. That's not like, and that was like a while back, and it was not like that. So stop acting like it's like people are getting lynched as they walk around the corner if they're the wrong color. That's
well,
bullshit.
and then there's the whole deal about, you know, Anne Boleyn is going to be played by a black actress coming up in this Henry VIII thing.
I always say I will believe in colorblind casting when they come out with the all-white version of Roots.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah,
you know?
Like, oh, well, it's colorblind casting. I'm like, no, it's not, because you would never put a white character into a black role. In fact, anytime you do it, even in a cartoon, you lose your shit. So stop acting like that's what you're doing and start being honest about it. You know, you're just and it's so insulting to black people too. Okay, black Americans, hi, we can't be bothered to come up with stories featuring you or characters that are sort of organically black or organically Asian or organically Native American. We have to take you and put you into white roles, because that's the best we can do for you. I mean, that to me is like so like degrading and condescending. Like, you can't come up with like a new story featuring a black character. You have to make who'd they make that they totally bombed? Alice in Wonderland. You have to make Alice in Wonderland, the blonde girl from England, you know, circa the turn of the century, into a little black girl. Because why? Because you couldn't think of anything new like that. You know, that to me is kind of sad. You run out of juice creatively, and or you can't be bothered to create black characters, so you just basically insert them into white roles, historic and traditional white roles, and call it a day. Okay. Yeah. That to me is very bigoted in and of itself.
I agree. All right, moving down to, what about anime? Are you a fan of anime?
I'm not a huge fan of anime, but you know what one really got me recently, and it's not actually that recent, I shouldn't say recent anymore, but it really got, I love manga. I do read a lot of manga, but I don't usually follow up with the anime. I'm going to say it wrong, Crybaby Devilman, or Devilman Crybaby, I probably got it backwards.
Yeah.
Crybaby Devilman,
yeah.
That one was good. I mean, it was disturbing. That was another one of those you couldn't really watch it more than once kind of things.
Oh, wow. Well, then I'll need to check that out. Yeah.
Oh, if you haven't seen it, first off, prepare yourself. Although if you're familiar with Japanese anime, you probably already realize you kind of have to go in with like yourself ready.
Right. Because you never know what, man.
Yeah. It was on Netflix. It was very well done. It's an older story, and they did a really good job. And there was even a little bit of like, there were some parallels to what's going on in the world now, but not many. It was more just, it was very good. It was that dark. There's a lot of darkness in Japanese like art and stories.
Oh, no shit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it had a lot of that in it, but it was very good. I really thought that was one of the sort of recent ones that I enjoyed very much. I'll have to look up the name. I want to say Crybaby Devilman.
That sounds right. That sounds right.
Yeah, I might be saying it backwards, but that one's worth watching.
Indeed. All right. So this is a point where I ask you about: do you have any scars, tattoos, or piercings?
I have a belly button piercing that I've kept for a very long time. I don't usually wear earrings, but my ears are pierced. I never got a tattoo, and this is going to sound, this is not a slight to people who have tattoos. Because I thought about getting tattoos at a different point in my life. I'm so glad I never got one. Which is it's not meant as like a slight to people who have them. It's just it wasn't right for me, and I'm glad I didn't get one. So no, I don't have any tattoos, but I do have a piercing, and then I'm probably done. And who knows, maybe I'll get a tattoo yet. They had an advertisement when I did when I was much younger, and I just gotten out of the Peace Corps. I spent a year in New Hampshire doing like education and hiking. This was before I went back to teach at a college. And one of the tattoo parlors, because they had a ton of tattoo parlors, because it was, I think, Maine, it was legal. You couldn't have a tattoo parlor there, so everybody from Maine would come to New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
And we were pretty close to the border, and they had some really great artists. I mean, that's where I got my belly button pierced. Some of the stuff they could do was just beautiful. Well, one of them had the cutest advertisement, and it said, get one of these before you end up across the street. Well, they were across the street from a cemetery. And so it was like, it made me think that was probably the closest I ever came to getting a tattoo, was that tattoo parlor, because I would drive by there whenever we would go into town from where I was working, and I would be like, oh, maybe they make a good point. I don't know. I don't know. Like, am I missing out if I don't get one before I die? Like, it was very effective marketing. I have to give them props for that.
Indeed. So, all right. So in 40 years, what do you think people will be nostalgic for?
In 40 years from now?
40 years from now.
Probably everything that happened before 2020. Probably, yeah, 2019 will be what everybody's nostalgic for. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think we'll be nostalgic for whatever innocence we had. Whoops.
Do you think the bug bricks they'll add flavoring to them?
You think what have flavoring to them?
The bug bricks we'll have to eat.
Probably really gross flavors. I mean, I think we might be. I mean, I think we'll be nostalgic. You know what we'll be nostalgic for? Freedom. You don't know what you got till it's gone.
Yeah, no. Yes,
I think that. I think a lot of the people who are pushing for things right now in terms of justice and what they think is, what they think they want is not what they want, and I think it's because they've been sold a lot of things that aren't realistic, and they don't have a wider worldview. They don't realize, and it is that idea of when you have never been facing.
When you say wider, do you mean WHITER or WIDER?
No, wider, not wider. No, a wider.
I'm messing with you, man. I'm sorry.
I don't think they have. You know, it's sad. You're probably wise to clarify. They don't have. I don't think they realize how the rest of the world lives. Like, people talk about poverty in the U.S. and injustice, and I'm like, have you never? Like, my guess is if they've gone anywhere else, they never left the all-inclusive vacation resort, and they don't realize like most of the world lives in a form of poverty you can't even wrap your minds around, and they live without freedoms that you have learned to take for granted and even sort of resent. And there's this idea that, justice is more important than freedom. No, it's not. Safety is more important than freedom. No, it's not, because you don't know what it's like when you give it up. And there's this idea that somehow if you give these things up, your life's going to get better. And there's also this trust of benevolence, like your government is benevolent. No, they're fucking not. Who told you that? Where did you get that terrible idea?
Right.
The government is never benevolent. The government, and anybody who enters the government with benevolence usually gets that benevolence driven out of them by greed or lust for power or other people, or they get driven out of the government, because benevolence is not something that thrives inside a government. The ruling class is never known for benevolence. They speak of benevolence, but that is merely to manipulate you. And the idea that people have not caught on to that yet scares me. I mean, some of the things people say or the way they talk about the United States scares me. And maybe it's because I've lived other places that I'm like, you have no concept of how the rest of the world really works, or how many people are in it, and how many of those people live in abject poverty and or live under governments that truly either can't do for them or wouldn't do for them even if they could. And you, even with things like guns, and I admit, like, that's a part where I've changed quite a bit, because of things I was sort of sold when I was younger and realized were not factually true. You don't realize why they take your guns away, and it's not because you don't need them. It's because you do need them. The balance of power between a people and its government is very much dependent upon an armed populace. And this idea that somehow, oh no, we don't, no, go to the places where the populace is completely at the mercy of the government, and you'll see there is something worse. Much, much, much worse. And this idea too that if you take guns away, violence will go away is silly on its face. I mean, one of the biggest school massacres in the United States involved dynamite. It happened in the 1930s. So we have this also very like truncated view of our own history. If you look up Bath, Michigan, I mean, there was a guy who blew up a schoolhouse and killed, I think it was almost 40 people. Timothy McVeigh, he didn't need guns. He killed hundreds of people, including mostly children. You know, you think getting rid of guns are going to solve your problems. No, they're just going to translate them into something that you don't fully understand until you go see places where the populace has no power of its own, has no way to balance itself. And any government that wants your guns wants them gone because, as people say, they're about to do something you might shoot them for. That is why they want you to be unarmed. They want you to be weak. They want you to be easily controlled. And they don't want to have to face consequences for their actions. That is the whole purpose of taking and disarming a population. Indeed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get all.
No, man, no. This is one of the reasons I wanted you on. You know, I think that was a cool little jazz riff, right? You're doing a little solo there, and I dug it.
I get a little ranty.
You were right. No, it was right in the pocket. It was fantastic. You did a good job. So all right. So what would you say is the most useless talent you have?
Most useless talent I have? I live in the South and I knit. You don't need a lot of scarves down here. Oh, sure. When I was up north, it was okay.
Keeps your hand busy.
The other dirty secret of knitting is like there's nothing I can knit that a Chinese company can't produce for like I can't even buy the yarn for what like that you can go buy a scarf for. You knit for like to be cool and to give people cool gifts, but you can't knit like you can't out knit like the Chinese knitting factory. God damn it! Like it's ridiculous. Yeah, I got like a mermaid blanket. And like it was like $10, and I'm like I couldn't buy the freaking yarn, let alone like then and go ahead and make this for $10. God damn it! That's the problem with globalism. So yeah.
Right.
Not that it's useless. I mean, you know, if the world falls apart, I can knit things, but until then, I'd rather just buy them.
All right. So let's see. All right. People in the chat, go ahead and get your questions queued up and start loading them in. Remember to add a couple of question marks before and or after. And I'll ask Miss Errant Belle if she could know the absolute and total truth to one question. What would that be?
If I could?
Yep.
Oh, I don't know, because the questions you think you want to ask are probably things you don't want to know. You know, you think you want to know the future because you like, but you don't really want. I guess you know if I lottery numbers. What is like the next? What are the numbers for the next Powerball in advance enough that I can go buy a ticket? Other than that, you probably don't want to know. Like, yeah, Powerball numbers. Other than that, I don't know.
Right.
Even then, who knows? Like, but not everybody who wins the Powerball ends up happy. So I maybe shoot myself in the foot with that.
All right. If you all right. So what is your spirit animal?
That's a good question. I've never, you know, I ask other people that all the time. I don't know if I have one. I'm trying to think. Something smart maybe. Probably Doberman, that'd be a good one.
Nice.
But I mean, I don't really actually know. Like, I think about it, it's hard. I don't know. The Cheshire Cat is what I use as my icon. That's a good one, too. I always love that character.
Yes.
But that's, yet again, fictional, so I don't know if I'm a lot of fictional spirit animal. I don't know. You know what you know what some people say my spirit animal is? I'm deathly afraid of frogs.
Oh, wow.
And so people say that, and I'm like, yeah, I have no idea where that came from. But of all the I'm not particularly scared of, like, I mean, if I see a poisonous snake, I'm not going to go over it and, like, mess with it. I'm not way too you know what, probably my spirit animal is spiders. I way let them crawl all over me. Like, my whole house, like, I let spiders have, like, free reign, and I only, if they actually crawl on me, we'll get rid of them. And I have, because we're in the South, I have, like, black widows. And I only shoot them outside if, like, I catch them inside, which is not normal. I know that's not normal because people are like, you know, they can be dangerous. I'm like, there's not much in the U.S. that'll actually kill you if it bites you. So that's kind of the good news. Even our snakes and because I've lived places where you can like die if something bites you, but most of our spiders and most of our snakes are not that deadly.
Yeah, I'm down in the south too, so it's like we have these wolf spiders that I don't kill them because they eat cockroaches. So
yeah. The big fuzzy ones. Yeah, I have a bunch of those. Really nice.
Yeah, about the size of a little bigger than a $50.
I love the garden spiders too, the big ones that make the zigzag.
Those are beautiful. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, and they're fascinating to watch because I mean you can actually like watch them. Like they're so big, you can see like what they're doing when they're. I had one in a tree near my house, and it hangs over my driveway, and I would go and I would feed it bugs last summer, and then like film it eating bugs.
That's cool.
Because it was like fascinating to me. I'm like that is, and I would like catch the bug. And I'd be like gearing up, and I'd throw it on the web, and she'd run over there, and she'd chomp it down, and I was like, yeah, get it. So maybe spider, I guess, would be my spirit animal. Sweet. I love those things.
All right, do you have any strange or interesting collections?
Strange or interesting collections?
Because Becca wants to know.
I mean, I have a ton of like touristy crap from Africa. Like I have like just piles of stuff. Don't get into knickknacks would be actually like I've got tin stuff from Haiti, and like it's cool in a sense, but here's the downside of it. Like most of the stuff that I worked hard to like bargain for and get when I was overseas, you can like go get it Pier 1 now. That's the other downside of globalism. You go and you buy tourist stuff, and then you see it like on sale on eBay, and you're like, God damn it!
Right.
I had to shove shit in my overstuffed suitcase, and I had to like bargain, and I had to like, and it was gross, and I had to worry about bugs, and then you see the same thing at Pier 1, and you're like, God damn it!
All right.
Those Pier 1 bastards. So yeah, knickknacks, I guess.
Okay. All right. So let's see. If you could go back in time and spend a week with anybody, who would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. Like anybody from my life or anybody in general?
Anybody from
like
history.
Famous. I had a friend die. I would spend a week with her. Like I had a friend die when I was that was my first week of college. A friend was killed in a car accident. I would go spend a week with her.
That's
just
sweet.
Because.
Yeah.
I mean, I could spend a week with somebody like Einstein, but I mean, You know, he already wrote a lot. I could read about that. I would rather spend time with somebody like that.
All right, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that people are tossing out over here. Let's see. I don't have a question. I just want to say we better see you around more, Belle. FTW Nell says. He likes you. He says nothing but good stuff about you. So he's a good guy.
He's a very nice person.
He is. What's your favorite place to visit?
Oh gosh, that's hard to narrow down. I like going. I like going someplace new. So probably someplace new. Like I know that's kind of a cop out answer, but like I love going. You know what? Actually, my favorite place to go is up in the mountains and like hiking. I love being in the woods because it's always different. Even if you like hike the same trail, and it's always like especially like mountainous woods. Like where I am now is really flat and boring. I kind of miss that. But like I love being up in the mountains. Like there's something about like if I ever win enough, like if I would win that Powerball, I'm like gonna buy a cabin way up the side of a mountain, like up in a cave, kind of a thing. Like I want to be as far up. But yeah, I would say like the woods. I love going out in like I don't know. There's a very different like I don't mean to sound like new agey, but you feel different. Like there's a different energy in the woods. I think it's the air. I think it's the trees. I think it's like especially like an old growth forest. I love the feeling of being in an old growth forest.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, chocolate cherry probably. But I mean that's like your favorite movie though. It depends on your like your mood.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes you want chocolate, sometimes you want vanilla, sometimes you want I love green tea ice cream. Like I feel like food is like very mood dependent.
Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't.
You don't. Exactly. That's totally true. Like, your favorite anything is what you're like most in the mood for.
Oh.
Like I very much believe like cravings are your body's way of telling you need something.
Yes, I totally agree with that too. Madness asks, what do you think of Barbara of the channels Barbara for U2X, aka Barbara for U2 RELX or RLX, and Barbara 2.0, aka Barbara Horvat? Because that's what she's known as now.
I don't know if I know what that is. Like, so I don't know. I don't mean to be offensive to that person, but I don't know if I've seen that. Horvat sounds familiar though.
Barbara
so maybe
Horvat. Yeah.
I don't. I'm gonna ask you now. I have to go
She's
watch
a young
Barbara.
lady. She does the kind of comedy thing. She's Slovenian, so she's got kind of this.
I haven't seen her yet. I mean, I watch. You know who I watch a lot of is in fact, he had a stream yesterday. He usually does them on Sunday. Is I watch Viva Fry from.
Oh wow.
He's an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like watching him. I like a lot of Thomas Sowell. I also like reading his stuff, like his old clips from when. I mean, he doesn't really do like a channel, but I like watching. I mean, there's some good on the internet.
Mhm.
I see a lot of bad on the internet, and I see a lot of good. It's like a choose your own adventure. You can get lost on Pornhub, or you can go out and find like-minded people. Well, sometimes I guess you find like-minded people on Pornhub, but you can go out and you can educate yourself. I mean, it really is like the ultimate choose your own adventure book. You can really learn a lot. You can get like led astray. It's really about, you kind of steering the ship into the place that you want to learn, or you want to get lost. No judgment on the people on Pornhub. Obviously, that's a huge segment of the population. It wouldn't be $1 billion industry. I used to teach about that. So I mean, like literally, if you think people aren't watching pornography, you can basically stand in a room full of 10 people and you got a 50-50 chance that 50 of them are. It's a fascinating. Let's put it this way: it's a fascinating and kind of disturbing industry.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of like the people got the Food Channel and stuff. So I don't. It's biological.
Yeah, it's biological. I think the problem is that there's a difference between the average person and the fact that it's like, obviously attracts some of this, and people who I think for some people it's perfectly healthy, and for some people it replaces regular healthy relationships.
It's like drugs. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because that's just it. It becomes part of a different type of addiction, a psychological addiction, or a crutch, or it becomes a replacement for. I think that's the biggest problem we're going to have after this whole madness stops of like lockdowns. People who are introverted by nature have been given a pass, and there's not a lot of good reasons to leave your home, and reintegrating into society is going to be hard for some of those people. Because some people already like avoiding society, and that's okay to a degree, but we can't be too fragmented. That doesn't always work well either. And we're already pretty fragmented before this now, whole thing went down.
All right, Neil wants to ask, are you still trying to get that RV? Lol.
RV what?
I don't know.
Wait, what was
RV
wall?
Oh, he says LOL after that. It's like
I have a I have a I want to get it. Well, I mean, I don't know what he's referring to. Now I feel like I'm lost.
RV, like a trailer.
I have an Airstream, and there's an Airstream in my family I would like to own. We used to own we were RVers as kids too. I really missed that. We stopped it when I think we got a little older. But I think someday I will end up probably living in an Airstream up the mountain if I can.
That's nice.
Yeah. That would be, I mean, it would be better to be in a cabin, but I'm not picky. And we do have, my father bought years and years ago an old classic, like, the stainless steel Airstreams. And it sits in a barn and does nothing because, I don't know, like, nobody seems to want to do anything with it.
What is your motto? What words do you love to live by? That's a good question.
Recently, probably, do not be afraid to admit you were wrong, because if you lose humility and the ability to admit you were wrong, you never grow. I look back at what I was even 10 years ago, and I'm perfectly comfortable admitting when things I've been totally wrong about, things I believed, I think, really deeply, and realize I was really wrong about. And I'm very happy that I've reached a point in my life where my ego is not so large that I can't admit what a dumbass I've been in the past. And seriously, that's where you stop growing. When you let your ego get so big that you can't admit you're wrong, you stop learning. And as soon as you stop learning, you're dead in the water as far as like your development and your value as a human being goes. You have to be able to admit you're wrong. And it's hard. I mean, I look back at where I was and think, God, I was a dumbass when I was younger. And thank God I can, because if you refuse to ever admit that you were a dumbass, you don't grow, you don't become a better person, you don't advance, you don't learn.
Humility, I think, opens the mind.
Yeah, that's an odd motto, but yeah, don't be afraid to admit you were a dumbass in the past. Don't be afraid to admit you were wrong. And, you know, embrace the fact that you're, especially because it takes the sting out of people. If you dig your heels in when you're wrong, when you know deep down you're wrong, when somebody's proven you wrong, you come across looking like an ass, and you don't learn, and you look arrogant and stupid. But if you're willing to admit, you know, I was wrong, you were right, it takes the sting out of everything. I mean, it shows that you're the kind of person who is open-minded, which is becoming sadly a very rare trait. But I mean, that's how you grow. You have to, like, I'm not saying I'm perfect at it yet, but as I get older, I realize you really do have to shed your ego to evolve. And like I said, I have a lot of work to do on that too. But I mean, if there's something I agree with in terms of Buddhists, that would be it. You have to be able to admit where you're wrong. You have to let go of your arrogance, or you're never going to learn. You're going to stop learning.
All right. So, if you had if you could have any car you wanted, which one would you choose?
This is going to sound so silly. I would like a mint condition, factory yellow, 2000 Hyundai Tiburon.
That's very specific.
It was the first new car I bought, and I had it and I loved it, and I dinged it up a couple times, and I traded it in, or I sold it to a friend because I needed to get a more reliable and bigger car. It's a small car. But I always, I'm very sentimental. I'm totally probably too sentimental. And I would always love to have like a perfect, that or aluminum minivan in mint condition. It would have to be mint condition, that's the qualifier. Aluminum minivan in mint condition, or a Hyundai Tiburon in mint. I also just thought it was a cool looking car. If you look it up in the factory yellow and you look up the car, it's actually a very cool looking vehicle, and it's fun to drive. Like, I love driving that thing. And it would have to have a stick shift too, because mine had a stick shift. I love that.
What's your favorite time of day? That's a good question.
Oh, middle of the night. I could be a vampire, no problem.
You and me both. The same way. All right, what do you think about the new news that a new Dragon Ball movie is going to come out?
I have very negative feelings about Dragon Ball because my nieces and nephews were really into it, and they dragged me to one of those movies. I had no idea what was going on. It was terrible. I still I would take them to movies all the time. You know, I like Disney flicks, and I can sit through most, and not that they were all good, but the Dragon Ball movie, I was like, what the fuck is going on? I'm so confused. Why are we watching a card game? I don't understand what's going on. So yeah, I'm not a huge Dragon Ball Z person.
What do you think about the manga of Junji Ito?
Which what's that? You know, the only really mainstream one I love and watch is I love Titan AE.
Junji Ito. All right, so he's done some horror films too, and a really good one is called Curso, or The Curse.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I know that one. The Curse, The Grudge, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's a really good story, and it's really like low budget, but it's really good. Let's see. All right, so this is the point in the show where I ask, you remember a show called Inside the Actor Studio, James Lipton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. So during his show, he passed away like last year, and I started doing this as an homage to him. I've got his 10 questions that he asks everybody, right? And kind of not a rapid fire necessarily, but in kind of a word association kind of I say a word and then you say what comes into or I ask you a question and you say the first thing that kind of comes in your head. All right.
Okay.
All right. And all right. So we'll start with what is your favorite word?
Enter.
What is your least favorite word?
I don't know. I'm not good at this. Oh my god, I would fail. I don't know. I like most words. I love words in general. I'm trying to think of what makes me really uncomfortable. And I can't think of a single thing. Oh god, I'm terrible at this. I'll keep trying, but I clearly, this is not like a thing I'm
That's
good
fine.
at.
We'll come back to that. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? We'll get you fired up.
Talking to other people and like reading other things, like a good conversation to me is like the most attractive. If somebody can hold a good conversation,
Yeah.
like learning is probably what turns me on. Like learning new things, like learning something. I love that.
Cool. What turns you off then?
God, I get angry with people. I fucking hate people sometimes. It sounds so terrible. Like I don't mean to be mean, but some people, like I get angry at people a lot.
Yeah.
Some people, not all people, but like I'm one of those people, like I leave my house and like 10 minutes later I'm like, I fucking hate everybody. But then like there's some people I can spend days with and be happy, so it just depends. I like a very small percentage of the human population. It sounds terrible. Oh my god.
Oh, he said Junji also did Uzumaki, which is an incredibly insane movie. So, and the story was great too. The art's impeccable. All right, what's your favorite curse word?
Depends who I'm cursing at. I'll call a woman a cunt if she pisses me off.
That's right. Okay.
I love probably douchebag though. I love calling people douchebags.
Nice. All right,
sometimes I'll swear in like other languages just because I can.
What sound or noise do you love?
What?
What sound or noise do you love?
Birds. I love birds.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, I fucking hate when the sound of other people eating. I'm one of those people that absolutely, like the sound of another person eating fucking enrages me. Commercials where they show people eating and you can hear them eating, I'm like, that's disgusting. Turn it off. I fucking hate that shit. That's an easy one. That's like a good psychological condition and I have it. I hate the sound of other people who eat loud. I have to play music when I'm having dinner. Like I don't want to hear if I'm alone in a car and somebody's eating potato chips, there's a serious chance I'll punch them in the face. Like I hate that fucking sound. I have to get out of the car. I don't know what it is. I don't know where I got it from or how I came to be, but that fucking enrages me beyond words. I don't know what it is. It's completely beyond my control.
All right.
So yeah, that was an easy one. That one I knew the answer to once I thought about it.
All right. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, I mean, I'm writing right now, and I'd like to really I'd like to write. I like writing books, and I've gotten 3 like I published, e-published, but I'd like to write and like be just successful enough that I could go hide somewhere. And other than that, I mean, I guess I wouldn't mind. Like I said, I don't like people. Like I don't mind helping people. Like I wouldn't mind having a job where I help people if I felt like I'd love a job. I'd like almost any job where I did something a little different every day. Like I'm one of those people. Like I need a lot of I need to be a little bit challenged. I get bored easy.
I totally get that. And, I mean, and I totally understand it because I'm the same way. All right, what profession would you not like to do?
I can't do clinical medicine. Like I can do it, I'm good at it, but like it freaks me out. Like just people dying, people being sick, people crying, people complaining. I have so much respect for people who actually do like hardcore clinical medicine and like nurses and people who do like the hands-on, which actually doctors don't do as much hands-on stuff, but even like GPs though, I mean that's hard. I mean, it's challenging. It is a little different every day. It's got a lot of problem solving, but like you have to basically turn off part of your soul to be able to help people sometimes, or you just have to like turn off, and I don't respect all doctors. I don't respect all nurses because some people aren't good at it, but the ones who are really good at it and do a really good job and really care, I mean, that's tough stuff. And also anybody who really does like a job where they work with people. I mean, I find people very difficult to deal with as a like group. I like such a small percentage of them. I don't know how people, and well, psychologically too. I mean, if you're in clinical care and you have to do anything with kids, I mean, some of that stuff is very difficult. Vets too. I don't know how vets do it. You can't talk to animals, and unlike people, you have to actually decide stuff like, okay, well, I'm going to kill this animal today. I mean, you become a vet. I have a friend who's a vet. You theoretically become a vet because you love animals, and then part of your job is putting them to sleep. That's got to be, and you go to school a really long time, and you have to learn a shitload of systems, and then part of your job is still trying to understand what these things that can't talk are feeling, and then the other part of it is making terrible decisions with people. So yeah, that's got to be a very, very painful job.
I bet.
Yeah, I mean, I love my vet that I have right now. He's an amazing man, but I sometimes look at him and I'm like, how do you do this?
No shit. All right, so and the final of the Lipton question says, "Is if heaven exists, what would you like to What would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gate?" That's the question.
Welcome. I'm not picky after that.
There you go. All right.
Welcome would be fine. I don't really have. I don't have any expectations of God. Beyond like if he would say welcome, and that I don't want to get too greedy after that, because the alternative of not welcome is all I really worry about. Yeah, that's another reason I've learned to appreciate faith. I've been on a couple bad plane landings. Obviously, I'm still here, so the planes did land. And let me tell you, I don't care if you're an atheist or a Christian or a Muslim or Baha'i or Jew or everybody fucking prays when they think they're about to die. And they pray hard. Everybody wants there to be a God. Maybe nobody's really sure, but everybody really... I have seen atheists, when they think they're going to die, what do? They don't go, oh, well, it's all over. They go, please, God, please. Yes. Please forgive me for being an atheist. No, it's amazing how people pray when they think they're going to die. And I'm like,
that's interesting.
There must be something to it, and obviously people want comfort, so I'm not going to judge them for how they seek it.
Well, and we kind of come back to that kind of that idea that of appreciation of faith in other people. I think that's a sign of I don't know, wisdom, maturity, whatever you want to call it. All right, we're back at the YouTube questions. Who would you say is a criminally undersubscribed YouTuber that you want to promote?
I like Drone Tech. I would promote him. Who else do I watch? Criminally undersubscribed. I watch a lot of... I'm trying to think of like my submissions, like who I go and watch. Like most of the people I watch, I think are like pretty popular. Smarter Melons, maybe.
Okay.
But he doesn't put a lot of stuff out anymore. I mean, I try to watch, like I watch The Critical Drinker. He's not undersubscribed, but he's really good. I mean, if you like, I'm trying to think. I don't have Bearing, but that's like an Australian guy. If you've never seen him. I'll give an outside the box one if you've never heard of him. There's a guy I watch called Joseph Carter, the Mink Man. And if you've never seen him, not political, not anything you normally would watch, but he's a guy who's very into animal training, and he's trained minks to like do pest control, and it's fascinating. Like I totally get into his stuff, and it's like just that's like a part of his his life, and it's interesting because I mean I like animals, but it's interesting to see how he trains them. He trains dogs too, like how he does it. But yeah, if you ever want to see mink hunt for rats, I highly recommend his channel.
That's crazy.
It's not that he's undersubscribed. It's just that you wouldn't think, like, I don't even know how YouTube came up with that. Probably a suggestion from me or how I even found it. But I've been watching him for a long time, and if you've never tried it, just watch a few of his videos. You might not even get into it, but you'll learn something.
All right. So who's a YouTuber you think is overhyped? Somebody you don't get.
I sometimes think Steven Crowder is a little overhyped in terms of his. And I sometimes get annoyed. Like, I don't watch Tim Pool anymore. I used to watch him. Just because you know, I just feel like he, at some point in time, you got to stand for something, and he stands for nothing. He like flip flop. His logic is inconsistent. And with Steven Crowder, I just feel like he is sometimes overhyped. I like a lot of his content, and I think because he's so big, he can do things that other people can't. And so I do sometimes enjoy watching, but I don't always appreciate like how he treats people and some of the stuff he does. And his is yet again, his show is quite the sausage fest. I wish sometimes he would like at least let women speak on his show. I'm not like a neo-feminist, like, but I do think you need. I think men and women are kind of like the yin and yang. You need men and women to stop acting like warring factions and start acting like allies and start acting like teammates.
I totally agree with you right there, because it's like I think that's the whole kind of a holistic perspective. You know, it's like not one person's going to have it, but if you've got a male and a female, I think you can. I like that chemistry too. I think it's necessary. You know, because you know, in my relationship with my wife, you know, it's like we're exact opposites, but you know, it's like we fit together perfectly.
Well, and I think there's a problem on the left and the right with how they view men and women. Like the left wants to basically pretend men and women are the same. We're not. And then the right, I think, sometimes goes to the idea of like, well, this is how men and women are supposed to be. I think it's probably somewhere more in the middle. We're different and we're complementary. And I think the idea is if we play to each other's strengths and if we listen to each other's perspectives, that's when we basically move forward the best. And when we function the best. And the idea that we waste a lot of time looking at each other as combatants. And also the idea that, I mean, the left has this idea that somehow men are, you know, evil. The left is very these days into like villains. And I mean, I used to be liberal, so that's part of this, but very into like this person's a villain and this person's a saint. No, women are not saints. I mean, there are some really awful men, and I assure you there are also some really awful women. I mean, awfulness is like being a terrible, evil, horrible human being is not something that, you know, is exclusive to any race or sex or, you know, nationality or religious background. Evil comes in every single form out there. And so this idea that somehow, you know, we're the same and or one side is good and one side is bad. I hate when people like portray it like that.
Right.
I think it's that part of balance is supposed to be part of humanity where people are supposed to be complementary to each other. There's good and bad in sort of every part of society, every type of person. You've just got to look for how to maximize the good.
That's excellent. I appreciate that too. All right, so you don't per se don't have any content that's out there, but what can people, if people want to find you, what's the easiest way to maybe do that? Like,
I mean, you can always, I'm on Gab. I think I sent you the stuff on Gab. I'm on Discord. I think I sent you the link for Discord. I think sometimes about doing stuff, but then I don't end up following through. Like, I like, you know what it is? If I was ever going to do the YouTube stuff, I would have to like hook up with somebody and do like, I like that, like talking back and forth with people.
Right.
Like, I don't like to, I'm not saying I don't monologue. I do, but I don't like that. I like somebody to bounce ideas off of. So yeah, I don't put out like content, but I do like, I share a lot of memes. Gab, by the way, in case you've heard terrible things, is not as terrible as people say. I don't understand why people bash that platform. I'm not saying there's nobody bad on there, but it's like, okay, you never met anybody bad walking on the street. You just avoid them.
Right.
I mean, most of what I share is like, I share pictures of like, I bake a lot. I share pictures of bread. I share memes. I share pictures of puppies. I mean, it's not quite the hotbed of like radical. They make it sound like it's a bunch of like radical anti-Semites and racists, and I'm like, and flat earthers, and I'm like, yeah, those people are on there, but they're not the bulk of what's on there.
Right.
And they're easy to avoid, as opposed to like, you know, when you walk down the street, actually, you can't tell who's thinking terrible thoughts.
No doubt.
It's mostly just regular people. So I like Gab. Parler has been more down than up. I gave up on Twitter altogether, and I do not miss it. And I just don't use Facebook. I just stopped. I have a dead page. I go there if I need to like get a coupon. That's the only reason I haven't deleted it. I have not deleted Facebook because it's still a place to get promotions. Other than that, I don't go there. How sad.
Well, we're at the end of the line because I have no more questions to ask.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
This has been great. See, I told you I follow my gut, and my gut's never wrong with this kind of stuff. And it's once again, I'm very happy with. Right. So all right. This time next week, people, I'm going to be interviewing the none other than the one and only Colleen Bernier. And if you're watched Lords of the Night, you know who she is. She's been providing news for Randy Monkey and that group for over 3 years. Now you get to hear her Yankee ass. Like, she's really got a smart ass mouth, and she's funny as hell. So this is and it's a perfect, Belle, it's the reason I wanted to do this with you is because I think there's some people that you might want to meet on that I like hang out with, just because that's kind of what I do. This is I like to cross pollinate different viewer populations and stuff, especially if there's a way to connect and stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, and tomorrow Beck and I will be talking about Alder James, enemy to the U.S. people.
Well, it was lovely talking to you, and we didn't get very political, but that was okay. It was kind of nice for a change.
Yeah, and so maybe we can do that next time. And I have a show on Fridays that I do midnight Eastern for 2 hours. It's called the Creem Stream, and that's a group, kind of an ensemble show where there's a group and we watch videos and news-oriented stuff.
Yeah, I watched some of this in preparation for this. So some of it was a little, like I said, a little beyond me in terms of being inside. But I will maybe try to tune in more often.
Well, I was going to say you're welcome to join us this Friday. That's the person that I always talk to in this seat. On Sunday, I'll usually invite them for the next Friday's thing.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I appreciate you giving of your time, because that's obviously the most valuable thing anybody has.
Yeah, and same here, man. I am so happy that we did this. And on that note, I'm gonna kill everything, and then I'll be back right with you for a couple seconds. Okay? So give me a minute, and let's say goodbye to everybody.
Everybody, and again, thank you for your time and for listening. And hopefully, we will run across each other again in the virtual space.